Coming up on today's show.
Just take some time to just begin, because then you'll start building momentum and you won't feel as overwhelmed because you're moving forward. It might be a small step forward, but it's still forward.
So there's no one right way. Think about how you'll find something and go that way. And the simplicity concept extends to color, because you're going to add color if it helps you when you're finding something, or it helps distinguish one section from another. So whatever organizing system you set up, keep it simple, keep the supplies on hand, and keep it working for you.
Well, let's pass that question also on to Debbie Rosemont about setting up a filing system, A to Z, color. Debbie, how do you recommend your clients?
So I agree with what I heard you say, Claire, about broad categories. I like to think of a filing system as a tree.
Get organizing tips and advice from 3 of your favorite professional organizers on today's Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to go back to December of 2014 and show you highlights from our live Google Hangout called Organizer411. It featured 3 top professional organizers taking live questions. We had Deb Lee, Debbie Rosemont, and Clare Kumar join us for that live Organizer411 event. So let's get into those highlights now from Organizer411.
I want to introduce our esteemed panel. First of all, we have Deb Lee. Deb, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
All right, and Deb, tell us where you're at in the United States and the name of your company.
I am in Maryland, so I'm close to the District of Columbia, the seat of our government, and I work with entrepreneurs via SohoTechTraining.com to find all the right tech tools for their company. So I'm all about the tech.
All right, and we're going to move up a little farther north. Clare Kumar, tell us where exactly you are broadcasting from and the name of your company.
I'm broadcasting from Toronto, near downtown Toronto, and the name of my organizing and productivity consulting business is Stream Life, as in streamline your life all smushed together. And you can find me at streamlife.ca. And I also have a product company, which we've talked about before, Pleo.com.
Awesome. And now, can you introduce our third esteemed panel?
Yes, I would love to introduce you, or invite Debbie to introduce herself, actually. Debbie, tell us where you're from and the name of your company and what you do.
You got it. Thank you, Claire, and thank you, John. Debbie Rosemont, and I am in here from the Seattle, Washington area, and my business is Simply Placed. Our website is www.itssimplyplaced.com. If you do a /Smead, we'll see some things specifically for this Hangout. And we help both residential and business clients get and stay organized and use the most of their time.
I'm going to start with you, Claire, because our first question comes from Christine down in Florida on the total other side of the United States. And she just simply says, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. You know, and I think I'm going to have each of you answer this question, because I do hear that one a lot. How do you get started if you're just overwhelmed?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. When people hire an organizer, they think they have to do a lot of homework to get ready. My only homework for a client is to identify the things that are bothering you. So once you come to terms with what that list is, it's going to give you a sense of the real trouble spots you need to solve. That's not necessarily where you're going to start to tackle. So, for example, I was with a client yesterday, and we're working in her office, and if you looked in the office, you would have seen bankers boxes 6 and 8 in a corner, all under the desk, and so on. And she wanted to start by trying to organize those boxes. The challenge was there were stuff filing cabinets and stuff drawers, and what we needed to do first in this case is create some more storage. So we actually had to go into the areas which to the eye look fine, because you can close the door, it looks fantastic, but you got to open those drawers, open those closets, create space in those environments by editing out what you don't need, and then you can start to process the things that are lying around in your open space. So there's one tip for you.
Let's pass it over to Debbie then.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, when we have clients tell us that they're overwhelmed, and that's a really common thing we hear, by the way, when people call, they're overwhelmed by the thought of what they think it's going to take to get to the end result they want. And so we work with them to try and break down the project into smaller pieces, so that it isn't such a big, overwhelming mountain to climb, but rather the one step at a time idea. So that first step doesn't have to feel so overwhelming. So really thinking about what their goals are in organizing, and then coming up with a plan of action. So whether that's somebody trying to tackle organization on their own, or whether we get the pleasure of working with them, we always talk about what the end result is, but then what is our action plan to get there, what steps will be involved, and that can often help take away that overwhelm.
All right, Deb Lee, your chance to answer the question about being overwhelmed.
I agree with both of these ladies. You do want to start small. Oftentimes people will say, my entire house needs help, or my whole car, or it's the entire thing that needs help. But just to kind of laser in on that one thing that you think you want to tackle, and maybe look for the obvious things, like the things that are obviously trash, or the things that are obviously meant for the recycling bin. Start with those. It could be that you need to make a pathway into the room. So start really small, laser in, and just start. Do a little bit, even if it's 5 minutes. Just take some time to just begin, because then you'll start building momentum, and you won't feel as overwhelmed because you're moving forward. It might be a small step forward, but it's still forward.
All right, Deb Lee, we're gonna stay with you. I have a question here from David, which says, how much value does one put in purging what we don't need? And when we do need to purge, wouldn't it be great to have a list of places where we can donate those items that we don't need? What do you, when you're helping clients purge, what are some of the common places that you're going to have them donate things to?
I think it depends on what they have that they need to donate. So things like linens and towels and sheets, those kinds of things, animal shelters really love them. If they're in poor condition, an animal shelter will still take them because they just want it for bedding. But if they're in great condition, then you can certainly look at any local charity that's close to your neighborhood. Goodwill is one of those that I like to refer clients to. So I'd say probably do a search in your neighborhood to see what you've got. Sometimes homeless or family shelters need things as well. Sometimes it's tchotchkes that they need. Sometimes it's other things. So I'd probably do a bit of a Google search or a Bing search or a Yahoo search, just to kind of see what's in your neighborhood, just based on the type of items that you have. Of course, as long as they're in good functioning order that someone else can use, then certainly pass them on. But if they're broken or in disrepair, then those are things that you want to not donate. And
we're going to move to another question here. We'll give this one to Claire about filing systems. And this is a question about how do you just set up a basic filing system, and what are some of the things, like this question is asked, is color good? How do you organize it for someone who's just trying to put a filing system together?
Okay, that's a great question, and there's no one right way, but let me give you some things to consider so you can build something that works for you. Number one is to keep it as simple as it needs to be, so that really you want to put as little effort into organizing as you can, so that return on investment is there. When you go to find something, you're able to find it with the appropriate amount of time. So let's just say that to start with. The biggest challenge I see in terms of filing is a lot of people will go and buy an accordion folder and it's pre-labeled A to Z. And then they go and try and start using that as their filing system. And let's just take your car, for example. You could file that under A for automobile, C for car, V for vehicle, H for Honda. So there's a myriad of ways to kind of file the same thing. What you've got to get clear on is how you're going to think about it. Mm-hmm. And personally, what I recommend is coming up with a few larger categories And by that I mean in my home organizing, I'll recommend doing a category for assets. So it's your home, it's your boat, it's your car, it's your cottage, it's your investments, your liabilities, your activities and interests. So really big categories that'll help you zone into a specific area. And then within that category, go A to Z. So in insurance, for example, then you'll have your automobile insurance, your home insurance, your life insurance, health insurance, and so on. So there's no one right way. Think about how you'll find something and go that way. And the simplicity concept extends to color, because you're going to add color if it helps you when you're finding something, or it helps you distinguish one section from another. Don't add color in if you're not going to use it. Add it in if it helps, because the reason not to make it complex is you might add a barrier to actually filing something. For example, if you run out of blue folders and you put all your finance in blue, all of a sudden you can't file something, and now you have a pile just accumulating there because you don't have all the supplies on hand. So whatever organizing system you set up, keep it simple, keep the supplies on hand, and keep it working for you.
Well, let's pass that question also on to Debbie Rosemont about setting up a filing system, A to Z, color. Debbie, how do you recommend your clients?
So I agree with what I heard you say, Claire, about broad categories. I like to think of a filing system as a tree. And the really broad categories are the trunk of the tree, and that could even be what drawer things are kept in as a trunk. And then the large branches off of that filing system are subcategories, and then twigs off of that, individual folders even within the subcategories. So I like alphabetical, but you need to think about what you're going to look for 6 months from now when you go to find a document, not necessarily what are you calling it now. So Claire gave a great example with the car or automobile. And again, insurance, if you were to file insurance things alphabetical by auto insurance, home insurance, dental insurance, health insurance, life insurance, it'd be all over the board. But if you do insurance first and then comma, whatever the description is, so adjective second. The same with if you're running a business, clients, you could have residential clients and commercial clients and archived clients and prospective clients. Instead, if you do clients, comma, residential, clients, comma, commercial, clients, comma, you get the idea, then it all does fall nicely under C for clients, and that's what you think of as the category to look under.
We're listening to Hangout highlights from our Organizer411 event back in December 2014, featuring Deb Lee, Debbie Rosemont, and Clare Kumar. We've got more great tips and advice coming up from them after this break. Are you looking to get your office organized but don't know where to start? And what can you really do to keep your office organized? Smead has put together a new ebook to help you answer these exact questions. We've compiled the best tips from professional organizers around the country to help you tackle the most common office organizing challenges. Go to smead.com/office organization and get your free copy today. That's smead.com/office organization. The new organization for the office ebook from Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, listening and watching top tips from our Organizer411 event back from December of 2014, featuring Deb Lee, Debbie Rosemont, and Clare Kumar. So let's get back into now more Hangout highlights from Organizer411.
Deb Lee, we're going to throw this question to you. This is from Robin, who's on live. She says, I've always had the best intentions to find a home for everything, like group-like things together, but what do you do when you have only one thing that doesn't have an obvious home? She says, whenever I try to come up with a place for it, I forget where to put it. Can you answer that question?
Well, I guess one of the things I often ask when someone presents that type of question would be, where do you use it? What's the point of contact? Is it something that you use in the kitchen, in the living room? Sometimes it's a book. It might be, a number of things. So what's the point of use? Where do you typically engage with that item or set of items? And is there a way to carve out some space where you tend to use it? So I'd probably think about that. And if she chats in maybe specifically what she's talking about, maybe we can dive into it. But I would say, where do you use it?
We're going to move the next question to Claire. This was from Victoria, who's on live. Says, looking for organizing tips for the person who is more visual. When I file things, I forget them, so lots of stuff ends up cluttering my desk. I've tried the on-the-desk file folders, but they don't. They get forgotten. So for the visual organizer, and I know that's a category of people. I think I'm in that category as well. What are some tips, Claire, that you have for the visual organizer?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's 65% of us that are visual learners, and so that, if it's out of sight, it's probably out of mind. Yet we can't have everything in sight because there's simply no physical space, and then things would become meaningless to us. So we have to have a mixture of things that are out for us, and then reminder systems to jog our memory for things that might be hidden. So I do recommend some desktop solutions, though, that keep things visible. And actually, I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to hide the file names, but this is a Smead product that I love and use. I don't know if you can see this.
You can't tell anybody that it's Smead, so okay, yeah.
No. Okay, so that is a wonderful desktop filing system that actually, because it's got a stadium concept to it, it raises each file, so you can actually see the name of each individual file. And I'm a visual person too, so I get your pain. That's really important to me, to be able to distinguish each one so I can just grab it. I like to pick and pluck and be on with my day, so being able to see things, and that's my active files. Now, for my clients and my reference files, they can be in my filing cabinet, and with a good labeling system, am I good? I know which drawer has which content in it. So I might label the drawer to give me that initial cue. Then I open the drawer and I can see what's in it. So you might, like, for closed cupboards and things, you might just give yourself some larger category cues to find out what's in there, and then be confident that once you open the door, you can see everything. But you might want a mix of more open systems than closed systems, yet organizing tools to support really arranging things in a calm way, in a peaceful way. So magazine holders, these vertical stands, that kind of thing are going to help manage the real estate and keep you happy by giving you the information you need at your fingertips.
Well, I think the fear of out of sight, out of mind that you were talking about is real for a lot of people, and I think the solution to that, or a solution to that, is to create visual reminders and having some sort of a task management system. So if I put things away in a drawer, but I have a reminder on a task management system to do something, I know right where to find it. In fact, I can even remind myself in that task management system where to look for that paper. So I don't think we're going to totally eliminate paper from our lives and not need to access it for things we need to do, but I think we can put it away as long as we have a good reminder system in place or good task management system. So, for example, I use Outlook tasks. I have very little paper out, but I have this trigger that tells me what I need to do and where to find the paper that's associated with it through Outlook tasks. There's all sorts of apps and solutions to managing your to-dos, but even a pen and paper list can work with the trigger of where to find the associated paper. So for visual, I love whiteboards, if that's helpful to somebody. The Stadium file is another product that you mentioned, Claire, that I'm a fan of. In fact, I've done a review of it. And having a few things out, I think, works. Having too much out then becomes a distraction, and you're not able to focus on nor find the things that are truly important to you.
That's great advice. Deb Lee, this one's made for you. This is from Virginia, writing from Connecticut, so don't get that mixed up. But
Okay.
Anyway, she's a CPA tax professional in mostly a paperless office, but she still likes the paper, and so she's trying to think, should I just go totally digital? She wants to still keep paper. How do you, because you're one who's into the apps and all those things,
Yeah.
how do you help people who want to have still like their hands on paper, but their whole office is going digital?
I don't think there's anything wrong with having some paper, and I don't think that we can completely go paperless or paper free. I think we can reduce our reliance on having a piece of paper, by using apps and even some, hardware that can help us digitize some of those documents, maybe have them stored in the cloud so that no matter where we are, we can access them. So I guess I would want to sort of fine-tune a system that works just for her, to help her sort of go along with the office policies of having less paper, but also sort of determining which items that she feels she needs to hold on to, and to really figure out if there's another way for her to access them, and if how comfortable she is with that. So I don't think it's logical to say, yes, we should just go completely paper-free, but just reduce the reliance on paper. So a combination of cloud technology, some digitizing, and then figuring out which papers we must keep, but then we need to figure out where you're going to keep them and what you're going to call them so you can recall them when you need them.
Well, Deb, how about that idea of, how do you organize a paper and a digital system together? Maybe even in terms of, file names or whatever. How do you help people down that path when they've got to keep both?
I like to mimic the same process. So I don't think you should have a separate naming convention for paper than for your digital papers. I think they both should sort of mirror each other so that it makes sense, the same structure. So if it's, I think Debbie mentioned before having clients, residential, so maybe all of those files that deal with clients always have the client tag followed by something else that differentiates them. And so you want to make sure that whatever it is you're digitizing and storing, on a different server or in the cloud is still mimicking the same kind of conventions that you would have for the paper filing cabinet. And that keeps everything more streamlined, so you don't have to remember two different sets of strategies. You're just relying on one. It's just that one is, in your hand and the other one is stored someplace else.
Oh, that's awesome advice. Well, I'm going to ask each of you guys to. Oh, do you want Claire? Go ahead, follow up on that one.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to add absolutely the system, but don't forget about the benefits of the digital system in tagging, because that's something that doesn't exist in paper, and you want to take advantage of the ability to, through scanning and optical character recognition, be able to search for things without having to remember. It gives you something else to rely on if you can remember a keyword or search for a keyword rather than having to actually have the file name. But and one other thing on just going on paperless is I have found personally that there's an actual transition in the amount of paper coming in. It's reducing from my newspaper to the bills that are coming in. There is a natural migration, and rather than make work for myself by taking things that are in paper and scanning them, if I don't need them, then I'm keeping them in paper. And then the things that are progressing to digital naturally, I'm keeping in digital. So I'm thinking bookkeeping in particular here. I don't like what I call monkey work. So if I don't have to stand and scan or shred or anything, I won't do it. So keeping a system, if it's working as it is, and letting it progress naturally as your service provider migrates to digital billing, for example, that might be an effective way to reduce a lot of paper and reduce your work.
All right, well, we're getting ready to wrap up here. Deb Lee, let's stay on you and just ask you what kind of business you conduct on a daily basis, what kind of clients you're looking for, how people can get a hold of you, and do you do virtual, local? Give us a lowdown on your business.
Wow, that's a whole lot. Okay, so people can find me at sohotechtraining.com. They can find me on just about any social network, especially Twitter. I'm on Twitter quite heavily. And I work with, so I do some virtual work. I do have some coaching clients that I do Skype or Hangouts with, much like this. So not in person anymore, not as much anyway. And I also have, clients that are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or micropreneurs who are looking for applications that can help them run their companies better. A lot of times they're looking for productivity applications, and I help them through that as well. So again, it's sohotechtraining.com, and look out for me on the internet.
Claire, tell us about your business and who you work with.
Thank you. So streamlife.ca, I've been organizing and providing productivity consulting for 10 years, and I'm looking for clients that are, my sweetest client to work with, if you will, is generally a woman, because they're great at asking for help. And there's so much going on. There's so much going on. It's a job, it's children, it's trying to integrate work and life. And I like to consider myself a Thrive coach now. So I'm looking at, actually, I've got a team of organizers in Toronto and across Canada providing organizing service, but my real goal right now is to attract clients that want to work with me virtually through Skype and Google Hangouts potentially and the phone to really get good at taking the bumps out of their personal and professional life so they can really thrive. And I'm really also excited about doing a lot more speaking engagements. So willing to travel internationally and really take those messages about how to thrive through your life, because I think in the corporate world particularly there's a lot of burnout, people on the brink of burnout, if you will, and I think we've got to catch it early before the warning signs turn into danger signs and you fall into some kind of calamity that you can't reverse. So that's my personal mission, and so people can find me on streamlife.ca.
All right, pass it over to Debbie so Debbie can let us know, Claire.
And Simply Placed is the name of our business, and it's simplyplaced.com/Smead for today if you want to go take a look at the website. We have both a residential division and a corporate division. So we have a team of organizers. There's 7 of us all together, and we work with busy families and busy professionals. So whether somebody's looking to get and stay organized at home, or whether they're an employee or have a team of employees in the company and want to make sure they're making good use of their time so that they get the best results at work, we love to do consulting and training on the corporate end as well. We work with people in person as well as virtually, and there's many ways to do that. And I would just invite everyone on the Hangout today to take a look at the website if you're interested. And if you're feeling overwhelmed about an organizing project, like we talked about at the beginning, think about how to break it down into small pieces and then ask for help. We really can act kind of as a personal trainer does and help you make the most of your project, maximize the results with minimizing the effort. So we'd love to help if we can.
Well, that's all the tips we have time for today. You can watch the entire replay of Organizer411 at smead.com/hangout. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized. Coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.
We always have to remember that in those magazines, they're trying to sell something. They're trying to make you want something. They want you to be more organized. They want you to have a prettier space. They want you to buy a new rug or a new couch, whatever it is, or a new countertop. Kitchens are huge because you see them and you're like, oh, I want a kitchen just like that. But the reality of that is that there's nobody cooking in that kitchen.